Save the city or catch your greatest enemy. You can't do both.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
You can't do both, I said.
No, I mean the other thing.
Save the city or catch your greatest enemy.
You think you're my greatest enemy?
Yes! You're obsessed with me!
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are! Who else drives you?
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. It's time to talk all things Batman. It's a slow Batman news week, so mostly we're going to do comic book reviews. And here to talk with me about that is my good friend Josh McDonald from popbyculture.com, as well as contributor to batmannews.com. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, man. Woke up, had some coffee. I'm off today, so it's a good day. Reading comics, can't complain.
Absolutely. So it was, kind of a big week as far as comics. We did get the lead up to Batman Fear State last week with Alpha. We get the first issue dealing with Fear State and Batman 112. We also got Batman Catwoman number, I think it's 7 from Tom King with a new artist, Liam Sharp, taking over. And we got the second issue of Suicide Squad Get Joker. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Joker, a Puzzlebox. But it's kind of weird because it's being released digitally and physically, so they're in different spots. So we'll just talk about that one more in general terms. Normally, we would start out with the Batman comic, but I do want to talk about Batman Catwoman from Tom King with Liam Sharp on art first. We know that Tom King's kind of modus operandi right now is to deconstruct characters, kind of ruin them, kind of do a lot of bad things. In his Batman series, he was kind of ruining Batman at the expense of Selina Kyle, but he's gone a different route with this series where he's kind of making Selina Kyle look like a piece of garbage, in my opinion. What did you take out of this? Well,
first of all, I want to say, how dare you say that we're not going to talk about the Batman book, because this is the Batman book, Wes.
It's the continuation of Tom King's Batman, yes.
I think it's a dumpster fire. I hate what he's doing. It's just the same like tropes and bullshit that he did all through Batman. Especially with Selina, I feel like it's a character assassination. He's made her a murderer. He's made her just completely irredeemable. And that's not who I want Selina Kyle to be. I don't think it's who she is. I think she, straddles that line. But never completely crosses it unless it's a need to. So I'm not enjoying it.
Normally when push comes to shove, she does the right thing.
Correct. And look, she's murdered before in continuity, but typically it was like either her life or the other person's life. For instance, with Black Mask, so it's like if she doesn't kill him, she's going to die. And I can understand that and I can get behind that for her character. But this is completely different.
All right, so let's get into some of the weird stuff. There's 3 different timelines. Obviously, you've been working through it. And we'll talk about Liam Sharp's art at the end. We're going to talk about Tom King stuff first.
Yeah.
We've got Batman and Catwoman together. Well, it's Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle together. And he smells Joker on her.
Yeah.
I took this to mean that, like, Selina Kyle and Joker were having sex before he arrived in the apartment.
Agreed.
Am I off base there?
No, that's how I took it. If you remember, last time we talked about Batcat, I brought this up. I was like, there's a scene where there's clothes flying and they're, with each other. I was like, did they hook up? And I feel like, yes, they hooked up. So it's just fucking weird.
It is strange. And they end up having a big fight about it, Bruce and Selina, because Bruce wants to know where Joker is and she doesn't want to tell him. Even though in the last issue, Bruce was knocked out by Catwoman so Phantasm could go kill Joker. We did not continue that part of the story for some reason.
No. There's like a reference to it. There's one part of it. It's so hard to tell what is in which time period, especially with the change in art too. But there's like a reference to her talking about knocking Bruce out with Phantasm. But that's all we really get. We don't actually get any further development.
And in the end of this story, she basically kicks him out and tells him to leave. And basically kind of threatened him like, you'll be back.
Yeah.
Kind of
she
thing.
also has sex with him in a bank vault. And then leaves
that's
him,
another
right?
timeline though, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't freaking know, man. It's just weird.
It is weird. In the setup of it, obviously we've certainly seen Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne hooking up within Tom King's Batman plenty of times.
Oh yeah.
This one's particularly strange because she's apparently handcuffed him, left him in a bank vault. I don't know, I guess as a joke. But the fallout of it is anything but funny,
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne Batman is a street level hero. He's not Punisher. So the fact that he ends up cutting his head, covering his face in blood so he can mollywop 24 police officers buck naked is really strange. That he wouldn't allow himself to get arrested since he was not even technically, he was breaking the law. He was in a bank vault.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's in the bank vault naked, handcuffed as Bruce Wayne, and wakes up and Selina's left a note saying, like, you know, I think she's gone to talk to like Joker, and then she's like, the cops are already on their way. And I thought it was supposed to be like a tongue-in-cheek, have fun getting out before they catch you type thing. And then it wasn't that. It turns into this whole brutal, like, he slices his head open, covers his face with blood, and then attacks him. And it's like he covers his face with blood almost to be like, so he won't get identified.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't understand why he didn't just like go and play the Bruce Wayne route. Like, hey, I had a hookup with this chick and she handcuffed me in here. Help.
Yeah, I have like 4 safety deposit boxes in here, and she duped me, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, like
I was the victim.
Yeah. Instead, he just beats the shit out of a bunch of officers.
Yeah, it's like there's nothing heroic about beating up police officers in the line of duty when you're breaking the law.
Yeah, I don't know if this was like a fantasy of Tom King's or what, but it was weird.
Really, really strange.
I mean, is that your fantasy to get handcuffed in a bank vault? And
no, my fantasy is to have a wildly successful YouTube channel. I'm still working on it. We haven't got there yet.
We're on the way. On the way.
Hopefully, the final story arc is when Selina Kyle's older. She has murdered the Joker. Bruce Wayne has passed away, and their daughter Helena is Batwoman. Correct.
Correct.
Is Batwoman, and Dick Grayson is the commissioner. And they go in to arrest, Selina Kyle because she's admitted to her daughter Batwoman that she murdered Joker. Did she murder Huntress as well?
No.
Okay, I saw that somewhere. I was like, I don't remember that part, but she murdered Joker.
I think that may have been like a metaphorical murder because Helena Wayne was the original Huntress, and then they're having Helena be Batwoman. I don't know. I don't remember a Huntress getting murdered. So
me neither. So I saw that somewhere. I was like, I don't think that actually happened. But she murdered Joker. They go to arrest her. There's this really strange conversation, and it highlights so much. Not only does this highlight what a bad writer is as far as deconstruction, just destroying Selina Kyle's character, in this book, but highlighting how much Tom King doesn't understand the character of Bruce Wayne or Batman. When she's talking to Dick Grayson, and they're talking about his costume he wore, and she says, "Did Bruce ever tell you why he dressed you up in bright colors?" And Dick Grayson was like, "Yeah, he did. It was so if I was so bright, I wouldn't be able to hide in the dark and use that as a weapon. I would have to be more aware of my surroundings to take care of myself." And she kind of laughs it off and was like, "No, it was meant to be a joke for the Joker and make him laugh. And he was hoping that if you look ridiculous enough, Joker wouldn't kill you." I was like, this is some of the worst characterization I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. And honestly, like, that was always my big issue with Tom King's Batman run was his characterization. I don't feel like, especially in the back end of his run, he just effed up characterization constantly. And that's a big thing for me. Like, if the story's just okay, I can get past it. But if your characters don't feel like who they're supposed to be, I'm not a fan. So I'm not surprised. This is true Tom King form right here.
You didn't. What you were calling bullshit on that as well. It felt so weird.
Yeah, it's him. It's just him trying to be edgy, and he failed.
Yeah. So we did get a change in artist. To me, up until this point, the only selling factor for Batman Catwoman was the art from Clayman, which has been spectacular. Liam Sharp is one of my favorite artists.
Yep.
I really love his work. Everything he does, is pretty much gold. I don't think changing the artist at this point really works for the series.
No. Because
it's a bit jarring here.
It is, very much so. I understand them wanting to get the books out, and I get that there's delays or something going on behind the scenes. But at the same time, I don't think people are beating down the door for this book. And I wish they would have thought of it long term as a collection at this point and just kept Man. Just keep Clayman. I like Liam Sharp. I like him a lot, but it is weird. And you can tell he rushed because there are panels where he uses the exact same image and then finds ways to just scatter it throughout. Like there's an image of Bruce's face that I think is used like 5 or 6 times. And it's just either zoomed in or zoomed out. So it was definitely a rush job to try to get this done. But yeah, I'm with you. They should have kept Clayman even for consistency. It just creates a nice, cleaner package. And you don't, sometimes people don't realize how much, a change in art, especially when you're reading it in collected form, can just pull you from the story. I mean, I'm not a fan of the story either, but it's definitely not a good strategy.
Yeah, I personally didn't think it worked, but I am loving Liam Sharp on the Batman Reptilian series and pretty much everything he does. He's brilliant. Like his work in Green Lantern was next level stuff.
Agreed.
So let's get into Batman 112, James Tynion, Jorge Jimenez, the very first issue of the big event. I want to hear your thoughts because you're the Batman expert. What new comes out of this story?
Nothing fucking happens.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Saturday, unfortunately I had my internet issues and I fell off, but Drew mentioned that he was excited for this until he read the issue, and I was in comments and I was like, completely agree, because nothing fucking happens. And I thought the whole point of Fear State Alpha was like, okay, we're going to get this recap book to set readers up in case they haven't been reading all these titles, which 100% I agree with. I fully support and back. But this is the first issue and you still don't do anything. Like this is crap. Like it's a waste of money at this point. All you've got Batman, who we already know broke free from Scarecrow. And then it's like a quarter of the book is him just talking about how he's unstable and his mind's messed up and he can't. And it's very whiny Tom King type Batman, but it's just exposition, just all through the book. And it's so much that we've already seen and heard that it's just tired. And on top of that, it's not written well either. It's just kind of hokey in some parts. It's whiny in some parts. I wasn't a fan. And then running through the entire book, you have the whole magistrate commercial thing going on, which I mean is fine if it had been in the first issue or when Nakano decided he was going to sign the magistrate up. But they're playing it now because it's apparently playing over all the airwaves. And if I'm a citizen of Gotham and you've completely taken over every station of every TV and you're playing this advertisement for the magistrate, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be like, yo, something's up. Like, this is some bullshit. I don't believe it at all. And they're running the other route of everyone's like, oh my God, we need the magistrate to be our heroes. So I hated this issue.
It plays on two criticisms I have of James Tynion just kind of as a Batman writer and kind of just as a writer. Number one is he's severely slow paced. Decompression is not actually describe what he does.
No.
Even in Something is Killing the Children, which I like, the last 2 issues in a normal comic book would have been 8 pages. He made it 60.
He has a tendency. So, I mean, for years I've complained about his writing style because he has a tendency to give too much exposition instead of this is a visual medium. So show, don't tell. Like I will always support that notion. But he also has a tendency to talk around his plots. So you'll have an issue where they're discussing so many different things that are happening or supposedly going on, and then you'll move on to the next issue, and it's like they pick up the discussions of things that have happened in between the issues, and you never actually get to see the story itself. You just kind of will skip around the big plot points, and then you're reading people discuss. It's basically like you're reading a synopsis of what you should have just been reading, and I think that's shitty for people that are paying money for books because these books aren't cheap.
That's one of my things. It's beyond decompressed at this point.
Yeah.
And then the other one, specifically with Batman, how many times are we going to see him behind the 8 ball? Like how far behind the 8 ball is he on this one?
I don't even know, man. I'm so sick of look, I'm the type that I get it. There's a period of time where you had this whole Bat God thing and nothing could stop him and he could overcome anything and there was never any problem that was too big. And I don't like that. But here he's just constantly out of the loop, constantly 5 steps behind, completely incapable of doing anything, needs other people to swoop in and save him. I'm sick of it. Like, he's one of the
Orphan
best
has to save him here. She's catching him up on everything. Like, this is Batman, the world's greatest detective. He should, generally speaking, have an idea of what's going on, whether
agreed.
he's winning or not.
Agreed. I mean, and I get that, you know, he's been out of it for a few days because, and look, I applaud James for approaching this in terms of how can we make Scarecrow different to actually try to one-up Batman, and taking his fear toxin and mixing it with Mad Hatter's tech to really like hit someone hard. I think that's a good idea. I'm all for it, but it's just the way it's presented I hate. But yeah, no. So like for me, you know, even if Batman has kind of been in Scarecrow's reigns and he's been out of it for a few days, like when he breaks free and he's making his way through the city, he's going to be able to assess what's going on around him and kind of figure some pieces out. He's not going to have to go sit in a chair and whine and listen to Oracle talk about, oh, hey, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. By the way, since you're a chump, this also happened. I'm not a fan. I don't like it at all.
What are your thoughts on Peacekeeper 1 also being taken over by the fear toxin? And he's kind of gone rogue, and I guess when he's looking at the citizens, he's seeing villains, so he might start killing innocent people.
I don't mind that because it's a step away from what they were doing in Future State. So it's kind of like, hey, you thought we're heading here, but we're not. So I appreciate that. It's a little predictable in terms of what's going to happen, and then how they ended the book with another reveal, I was not a fan of.
I am a fan of the art.
The art's excellent. I mean, you got Jorge
Jimenez.
He's so great. Good. I wish he could draw something other than people sitting around and talking in a mopey Batman. But
infomercials for Simon Saint.
Yeah. Like, oh, fuck me. Seriously.
Yeah, the art's just it's magnifique. You know what I'm saying?
It is. Agreed.
It's so good. So at least it looks fantastic. But me personally,
I was gonna say it's got something going for it.
I thought something was going to happen. You know, it's issue number 1. You know, you want to hit the audience in the head, right?
Right.
Boom, knockout punch. You got to stick around for this thing. And in my opinion, it didn't happen.
You think we would have learned by now, though, because how many times has this happened where nothing really happens? We're just suckers.
We are suckers.
We are.
So let's get into what I personally think is the best or the strongest Batman-related comic of the week. We got Brian Azzarello. We've got Alex Maleev on Suicide Squad Get Joker. We know there's a lot of controversy with Wild Dog coming into this. He was going to have led the January 6th event that happened in the Capitol building. But at the end of last issue, Joker essentially killed Waller, took the little controller that can blow up all their heads. Obviously, the Suicide Squad are being led by Jason Todd in this issue, one of the real selling points of the comic book. It's basically 2 stories. It's them kind of on the beach contemplating what's going to happen to them, and them in this nightclub. It's interesting enough. It feels kind of random, and I don't know about the dialogue, but there is one standout character that I enjoy. It's Wild Dog. He's really funny.
He's freaking hilarious. I have a pretty out there and inappropriate sense of humor. So anytime you've got a character calling people like dickweed or I mean. This was total Azzarello, but at one point
there's a lot of gay jokes in there.
There's a lot of gay jokes, and I'm gay, but I tend to think that shit's funny. So I laughed at that. There was like this one quintessential Azzarello moment, and if you've ever been to Comic-Con, specifically the year that The Killing Joke came out for animated series, the movie. God, I can't talk. He had an interaction with a fan where someone yelled something from the audience during the Q&A. And then he was like, what? No, say it in the microphone, you pussy. So the fact that he had Wild Dog call the people that the
Joker's
bouncers
henchmen
at the bar, that were patting him down when they found the gun. The fact that he was like pussies. And then you had the Silver Banshee be like, of course he's got a small one. Like for me, I thought that was funny. I laughed at those jokes. But yeah, it is a little random. There's a lot of just random. Like there's a scene where you've got 2 characters just like smoking weed on the beach. Like, it has no point.
And then they're trying to convince Jason Todd is like, I'm a rock. I can't even feel this. It's for nostalgia.
Yeah.
Once the other guy saying, I can't use my powers if I'm not high. Like, you think he bought it? Like, okay.
Yeah, No.
Also, the beach is a kind of a funny thing where the henchmen show up and Wild Dog's talking shit about Joker.
Yes.
And then they're like, you think he'll forgive me? And they're like, well, let's find out. He's like, oh, shit. He's going to blow my head up.
A joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About to find out.
It's an interesting book because, you know, it's a short run, and I think you're supposed to have a lot of tension with the Joker having the bomb to them. But the way it plays out, there's really not much tension. There are some good lines about, you know, the characters are feeling tension because nothing's happening. But from a reader standpoint, the fact that nothing's happening is not fun. But Harley has a good line of like, no, this is how the Joker operates. He's going to do this to make you kind of squirm. Like he wants you to wonder what's going on. And I appreciated that, but I still think it could have been presented differently. I wish the Joker would have just had them doing random shit. That way they're going around committing crimes and they're like, why are we doing this? And she's like, there is no reason. He's just having you do this to do this. This is what he does. I probably would have enjoyed it much better. And look,
like a Die Hard with the vengeance kind of thing.
For sure.
They're sending off on random shit.
Guys smoking in the alley for a page, fine, but don't make it like 3 to 4 pages.
There's a few interesting moments in here. At one point, Joker decides he wants Harley to, because they're in the club, he wants her to strip for him.
Yep.
Did Jason Todd offer, like, did he say he wanted to strip for Joker? Because that's the way I took the line.
That's not how I took it.
He's like, no, you don't need to do that. And I was like, what?
I mean, I probably would have preferred that over Harley, but I don't think you would have. Yeah, no, I think he was like just trying. I think he was viewing it as like, hey, this is demeaning. Don't do this. You don't have to do it. There's another way. And she's like, no, there is no other way. But really, you find out that there's kind of like a plan B, and she's in on it, and Wild Dog is in on it. But it kind of plays out without you knowing. And then as she's stripping and dancing on the pole, Wild Dog goes up to tip her. And then you're kind of like, dude, this guy's, you know, kind of a piece of trash. Yeah. And when he tips her, he slips her a razor blade because she's going to be close to Joker. So, you know, that definitely plays out. And the way it ultimately played out, I enjoyed because I didn't see it coming, but it made sense. And then Harley stripping is also a callback to Azzarello's Joker book. So if you haven't read that, you know, it kind of pulls from that a little bit. He was definitely given a wink and a nod to his previous work. So
you like the big cliffhanger?
Sure. I mean, like, it was interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes, but you know, I don't mind seeing those characters pop up. Are we revealing the characters? Do we want to talk? Yeah. I mean, like at the very end, you know, you've got basically a second Suicide Squad team that shows up, and it's Deadshot and Rick Flag and Deathstroke and
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker's there. There's a few other people. You don't really know if they're coming to help or hurt because I'm pretty sure they just killed Silver Banshee. So who knows what's going to happen?
There was much more character development in this issue. There was a lot of stuff about like, who are these characters. There was none of that really, other than Wild Dog in the first issue. This time, at least we got to know some of the characters a little bit.
Agreed. Yeah, I enjoyed the characters more because the first issue, while he was trying to explain who they are and what they can do, it just felt generic. But here, you kind of got to see their personalities a little bit more. So I was, I don't want to say I was endeared to them more, but I was definitely more interested in who they are. And then Meow Meow was someone that I didn't care about that I'm kind of interested to learn more about. She's basically like Melina from Mortal Kombat. So
she's got a weird power.
She's got a weird power. She eats
apparently
ants.
She used to work at a brothel and do some weird stuff that might have ended in death sometimes.
Yeah, she was a prostitute, and people like kinky things. So, you know,
weird stuff. It's Alex Malik. Or I'm sorry, it's Brian Azzarello.
It is 100% Brian Azzarello.
So the last comic we'll talk about, I think we're on the second issue of the printed version of Joker Puzzlebox. We're on issue number 7, is it? 7 or 8 of the DC Digital First. This is Matthew Rosenberg. Is it Jesus Marino?
It's like different artists for each issue. Like each digital issue has different artists. So it's a little jarring, and you definitely can't keep up with who's doing what.
As far as all of these stories, this is the one I would kind of recommend the most, even though I'm not a big Matthew Rosenberg fan. It's basically Joker's being interrogated by Commissioner Gordon and Harvey Bullock about how the Riddler died, and he's kind of talking around it. You can tell some of the things he's saying are not true.
Yeah.
But some of them likely are true, and you have to kind of decipher what exactly happened to the Riddler, and, you know, Black Mask and all these villains are involved, and it gets more complex each and every issue.
It definitely does get more complex. I think one of the interesting things with this is for me, it's a fun book, but it does have some darker moments. And then you have moments where, like Joker's just having a gas with Gordon and Bullock, because he embellishes things. And I think Joker's a character you can get away with this. He can be a complete loon, a total cartoon character. And if you write it in a way that his whole intention is to like throw you off or keep you off balance, then it works for me. And that's kind of what he's doing here. He's just, tugging on the rope and kind of pulling these guys along. And meanwhile, you're kind of finding out the story in the background. But basically, you have Riddler who's on a mission, and he's got a team of people trying to help him. And then you find out in this issue, Catwoman's kind of on the same mission, and she's got a team of people. But there's murder, there's death. It's an interesting read for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Like I said, you can go out there and get the DC digital copies. They're like half issues. They're a pretty good price, and you can get caught up a lot quicker on that one. But I would suggest this if you're looking for a decent Joker book. It's a fun little adventure. It's got a little weird stuff. It's kind of like what is it? The Usual Suspects, but it's Joker in there, and he absolutely is screwing with Chaz Palminteri's character, but he knows it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so not the most exciting week in Batman. There's not a whole lot of real standout stuff here, but Selina Kyle definitely gets the Tom King treatment, which I think personally is unfair. We got some really weird stuff with Batman, certainly not a hero, just beating the absolute shit out of a bunch of police officers doing nothing but their job. In Batman Fear State, or the first issue of the Fear State, event, Batman 112 doesn't really go anywhere. If you were already caught up, you can probably just skip that one. The Suicide Squad Get Joker issue I thought was better than issue 1. It was a lot of fun, weird, random stuff going in there. Some pretty funny jokes that I enjoyed. And absolutely, check out Joker Puzzlebox. What are your last thoughts on this week in Batman?
I would just say that I would skip Batman. This is looking like it's going to be just a complete crap show. Skip Batcat because it's, trash juice for how they're treating Selina, and just the narrative is really weird and really off-putting. But yeah, the Suicide Squad Get Joker, if you've got a dark sense of humor, it's probably a good book for you to read. You'll laugh a decent number of times. And then Joker Puzzlebox, again, the first issue is a little hokey and weird, but the second issue kind of brings some grounded storytelling into it that I really enjoyed, especially the Black Mask story. Like it was a good narrative, like switch and like a bait and switch that I wasn't expecting. So I had fun with it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Josh. Next week, we'll be talking about everything at Batman. I think we're going to do either Heroes in Crisis, where we're going to have a conversation about the 7 deadly sins of DC. We're not sure. It'll be one of those. So it'll be a little extra Josh content next week.
Woohoo.